I'm 23F, and I've attended the same church my entire life. Pastor Michael has been there for 15 years, and I've always looked up to him as a father figure, which now makes me sick to my stomach for reasons that will become clear. Growing up, my mom, Rebecca, 44F, always told me my father was someone she dated briefly in college who wasn't ready for the responsibility of being a dad. She said his name was Mike and that he moved away when she told him she was pregnant. She never spoke badly about him, just said some people aren't cut out for parenthood and that we were better off without him. My mom and I have always been close. She raised me as a single mother while working as a nurse, and we struggled financially, but we were happy. When I was 8, we started attending Riverside Baptist Church, and Pastor Michael was so welcoming to us. He took a special interest in my education, helped my mom get financial assistance when times were tough, and was always there for our family during difficult moments. Over the years, people would comment on how much Pastor Michael cared about my family, especially me. Some of the older church ladies would say things like, "It's so wonderful how he's taken you under his wing," or "You're so blessed to have such a caring pastor." I just thought he was being Christian and helping a single mother and her daughter. Pastor Michael has been married to his wife Linda for 12 years, and they have 3 kids together: Emma, 11F, David, 9M, and Sarah, 6F. I've babysat for them countless times, and I love those kids like they're my little siblings. Pastor Michael always said I was like family to them. Last week, I was helping my mom clean out some old boxes in the attic when I found a shoebox hidden behind some Christmas decorations. Inside were old college photos of my mom with a guy who looked exactly like Pastor Michael when he was younger. There were also love letters signed Mike that talked about their future together and how much he loved her. I confronted my mom immediately, and she broke down. She admitted that Pastor Michael is my biological father. According to her, they met in college and dated for over a year. When she got pregnant, Mike said he had plans to go to seminary and couldn't handle the responsibility. He gave her money and suggested she handle it, and when she refused, he transferred schools and cut all contact. But here's the part that makes me sick. When we started attending his church 8 years later, Pastor Michael recognized my mom immediately. He approached her after that first service and said he wanted to be part of my life, but only if they kept his identity secret. He was engaged to Linda and said revealing the truth would destroy his calling and his future marriage. My mom agreed because she thought having my father involved secretly was better than not having him at all. She said Pastor Michael has been supporting us financially for years, not through church programs like I thought, but by personally giving my mom cash and paying for things like my car and college tuition directly. I am devastated. This man has been preaching to our congregation about integrity and honesty while living this massive lie. Every piece of advice he's given me, every sermon about being a good Christian, every moment he spent mentoring me, it was all built on deception. And Linda has no idea. Their 3 children have no idea that the girl who babysits them is actually their half-sister. I don't know what to do. I want to confront him, but I'm also terrified of destroying an entire family. Those kids are innocent in all this, but I also can't keep living this lie now that I know the truth. Update 6 days later. I confronted Pastor Michael yesterday, and it went horribly. I waited until after Wednesday evening service and asked if I could speak with him privately. When we were alone in his office, I just said, "I found the photos and letters in Mom's attic. I know you're my father." His face went white. He didn't try to deny it or act confused. He just slumped in his chair and said, "How long have you known?" When I told him I'd found out 6 days ago, he actually looked relieved and said he was glad the secret was finally out. That made me even angrier. He said he's been wanting to tell Linda and the kids for years, but that the longer he waited, the harder it became. Asked him how he could stand up every Sunday and preach about honesty and family values while living such a massive lie. Pastor Michael got defensive and said that everything he's done has been for my benefit, that he's made sure I had everything I needed, and that he's been the best father he could be under the circumstances. I lost it. I told him that lying to everyone for 15 years wasn't being a good father. It was being a coward who was more concerned about his reputation than his daughter. I said a real father would have taken responsibility from the beginning instead of making secret deals with my mother. Pastor Michael started crying and said he knows he made mistakes, but that he was young and scared when I was born. He said finding God and becoming a pastor made him realize how wrong he'd been, but that by then he was trapped in his own light. The conversation ended badly when I told him that I was considering telling Linda and the kids myself, since he clearly didn't have the courage to do it. He begged me not to, saying it would destroy his family and his career. I told him that maybe he should have thought about that 23 years ago. I left feeling more angry and confused than before. Part of me felt bad for making him cry, but part of me thinks he deserves to face consequences for his choices. Update: 2 weeks later. Things have gotten complicated fast. After I confronted Pastor Michael, I decided I needed time to think before making any rash decisions. But apparently word has started spreading somehow because 3 different church members have asked me this week if everything is okay with my family situation. I suspect Pastor Michael has been acting differently, and people are picking up on it. He's been avoiding me completely. When he sees me at church, he finds excuses to leave the area quickly. But the real problem started when Linda approached me yesterday. She said Pastor Michael has been acting strange for weeks, staying up late, being distant with the family, and seeming distracted during services. She asked if I knew if something was bothering him since he'd always confided in our family before. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't lie to her face, but I also couldn't tell her the truth. I just said that I didn't know what was wrong, but that maybe she should talk to him directly. Linda then said something that made my stomach drop. She said she's been worried that Pastor Michael might be having some kind of personal crisis because he's been asking strange questions about forgiveness and whether she thinks people can change. She's even wondering if he's considering leaving the ministry. I feel terrible that Linda can see something is wrong, but has no idea what it is. She's been nothing but kind to me and doesn't deserve to be kept in the dark about her own husband's secret. My mom has been no help. She keeps saying this is between Pastor Michael and me to figure out, and that she doesn't want to get involved again. She seems more concerned about losing the financial support than about the ethical issues. The worst part is watching the kids. Emma asked me yesterday why their dad seems sad all the time lately, and I didn't know what to tell her. These children have no idea their whole family dynamic is about to potentially explode. I'm starting to think I should have just kept my mouth shut after finding those photos. Edit. People keep saying I should just tell Linda myself. It's not that simple. This would destroy multiple people's lives, and I'm not sure I have the right to make that choice for everyone. Update, 1 month later. Everything blew up spectacularly, and it's somehow both better and worse than I expected. Pastor Michael finally told Linda the truth, but not by choice. Apparently, the stress of keeping the secret was affecting him so badly that Linda insisted they go to marriage counseling. During their second session, the counselor asked about family secrets and Pastor Michael broke down and admitted everything. Linda called me that night, crying hysterically. She said she needed to hear my side of the story before she decided what to do next. We met the following day at a coffee shop, and it was one of the most difficult conversations of my life. Linda was devastated, but not in the way I expected. She wasn't just hurt about the secret child. She was furious that Pastor Michael had been lying to her for their entire marriage. She kept saying, "How can I ever trust him again? What else has he been lying about?" She also said she felt betrayed that my mom and I had been in on the secret while she was kept in the dark. I tried to explain that my mom had been trying to protect me and that I only found out recently, but Linda said it still felt like everyone had been conspiring against her. The conversation got really heated when Linda said she felt like an idiot for not seeing the signs, how Pastor Michael always seemed to know exactly what I needed, how he lit up when talking about my achievements, how he always found excuses to spend time with our family. Linda said she's been going through their finances and found irregular cash withdrawals over the years that now make sense. She's angry that he spent their family money on us without her knowledge or consent. But then Linda surprised me by saying she also felt terrible for me. She said she couldn't imagine growing up without knowing who my father was, and that she understood why my mom had agreed to the arrangement. The conversation ended with Linda saying she needed space to figure out what to do next, and that she wasn't ready to tell the kids anything yet. Update, 7 weeks later. Linda filed for separation 3 weeks ago and moved the kids to her mother's house 2 hours away. Pastor Michael is staying in their house alone while they work out custody arrangements. The church board called an emergency meeting last week after rumors started circulating about why Linda and the kids had suddenly left town. Pastor Michael was forced to tell them the truth about our family situation. The reaction has been brutal and swift. The board voted to terminate Pastor Michael's employment immediately. They said they couldn't have a pastor who had been living a lie for so long, regardless of his reasons. But it gets worse. During the investigation into our family situation, the board discovered that Pastor Michael had been using church credit cards to pay for some of my expenses over the years. While the amounts weren't huge, maybe $2,000 total, it's technically misuse of church funds. They're demanding full repayment and threatening to involve law enforcement if he doesn't comply. About half the congregation is supportive of Pastor Michael, saying everyone makes mistakes and that he was trying to do right by his daughter. But the other half is calling for him to be completely shunned from the church community. The worst part is how this is affecting the kids. Linda told me that Emma has been asking why they had to move away from their friends and why their daddy isn't living with them anymore. She hasn't told them about me being their sister yet because she says they're already traumatized enough. Pastor Michael has been calling me almost daily, saying he's lost everything and asking if we can at least try to have a father-daughter relationship now that the truth is out. But honestly, I'm struggling with whether I even want that anymore. Seeing how much pain this has caused Linda and the kids makes me question whether it was worth revealing the truth at all. I keep thinking that if I had just put those photos back in the box and pretended I never saw them, 3 innocent children would still have their family intact. My mom has been dealing with her own fallout. Several church members have been gossiping about her seducing the pastor and destroying his family, even though this all happened before he was even married to Linda. I've stopped attending church entirely because the stares and whispers have become unbearable. Some people treat me like I'm a victim who deserves sympathy, while others act like I'm a homewrecker who destroyed a godly family. Edit. For those asking about the legal stuff, Pastor Michael's lawyer says the church probably won't press charges if he pays everything back, but he's basically broke now, so I don't know how that's gonna work. Edit 2. Yes, I feel guilty about ruining everyone's lives. I get that people think I did the right thing, but it doesn't feel that way when I see what it's done to those kids. Update. 4 months later, Linda and Pastor Michael's divorce proceedings are ongoing and getting nasty. Linda's lawyer is arguing that Pastor Michael committed fraud by hiding significant financial obligations, supporting my mom and me throughout their marriage. Pastor Michael's lawyer is claiming Linda is being vindictive and trying to deny him access to his children. Linda finally told Emma, David, and Sarah that I'm their half-sister last month. According to her, the kids took it better than expected, but they're confused about why it had to be a secret for so long. Emma, who's now 12, asked if she could call me to talk about everything. We had a long conversation where she said she wasn't mad at me, but that she was angry at her dad for lying. She said she always felt like I was more than just a babysitter, and now it made sense why. David and Sarah are younger and don't fully understand the implications, but they seem excited to have an official big sister. Linda has reluctantly agreed to let me spend time with them during some of Pastor Michael's supervised visits. The relationship between Linda and me is still very tense. She's civil when we need to coordinate things involving the kids, but she's made it clear that she blames me partially for not coming to her directly when I found out. She said if I had told her instead of confronting Pastor Michael first, she could have handled the situation differently. Pastor Michael has been struggling badly. He lost the house in the separation agreement and is now living in a studio apartment across town. He's working at a grocery store stocking shelves and trying to pay back the church money, but he's also supposed to pay child support and alimony. Our attempts at building a father-daughter relationship have been awkward and disappointing. He's bitter about losing his career and family, and keeps trying to justify his original decision to abandon my mom and me. He says he was called to ministry and couldn't let anything interfere with that calling. When I point out that lying for 15 years wasn't very Christian, he gets defensive and says he was doing the best he could in an impossible situation. He doesn't seem to understand that he created the impossible situation himself. I've started therapy to work through my feelings about all of this. My therapist says it's normal to feel guilty about revealing a secret that hurt innocent people, but that I'm not responsible for the consequences of other people's decades of deception. The church hired a new interim pastor, and I've been visiting other congregations to see if I can find somewhere to worship without all the baggage. It's been hard because Riverside Baptist was the only church home I've ever known, but the gossip and judgment have made it impossible to stay. My mom has been dealing with her own guilt about her role in creating this situation. She keeps saying she thought she was doing what was best for me, but that she realizes now how many people got hurt by keeping the secret for so long. Update. 10 months later. The divorce was finalized 2 months ago. Linda got primary custody and Pastor Michael gets the kids every other weekend and 1 evening per week, but only with supervised visits for now because of concerns about his mental state. Linda has started dating someone, a widower from her new church who has 2 kids of his own. Emma told me she likes him but wishes her parents could somehow get back together, even though she knows that's not realistic. My relationship with my half-siblings is slowly developing, but it's complicated by all the family drama. Emma and I text regularly now, and she's asked me to help her with a school project about genetics and heredity, which felt both sweet and awkward. David and Sarah are adjusting better than Emma, probably because they're younger. They call me their big sister now and seem to accept the situation more easily than the adults do. Pastor Michael and I meet for coffee about once a month, but I'm not sure how much longer I can keep doing it. He's become increasingly bitter and resentful about his situation. Last time we met, he suggested that I should be grateful for all the years he supported us secretly, as if lying to his wife and children was some kind of noble sacrifice. He's also started making comments about how his life would have been fine if I had just left well enough alone. When I remind him that he's the one who created this mess by abandoning us and then lying about it for 15 years, he gets angry and says I don't understand the pressure he was under. The financial situation remains a disaster. Pastor Michael is working 2 jobs now, the grocery store during the day and cleaning offices at night, but he's still behind on all his obligations. The church has agreed not to press charges as long as he keeps making payments, but it's going to take him years to pay everything back. I've found a new church home at a non-denominational congregation across town where nobody knows our story. It's been healing to worship somewhere without whispers and stares, and I've made some genuine friendships there. The hardest part of all this is dealing with my own guilt and regret. Some days I wish I had never found those photos, or that I had handled the situation completely differently. Seeing the impact on Emma, David, and Sarah especially weighs on me. But my therapist keeps reminding me that Pastor Michael had 15 years to tell the truth himself, and that keeping secrets that big always causes more damage the longer they're maintained. I'm also learning that having a biological father doesn't automatically create the relationship I always fantasized about. Pastor Michael is just a flawed, selfish person who happened to contribute DNA to my existence. That's not the same thing as being a real father. Edit. People asking if I regret everything. It's complicated. I'm glad to know the truth and to have relationships with my half-siblings, but I hate that it came at such a high cost for everyone involved. Update: 18 months later, my relationship with Pastor Michael has essentially ended. We stopped meeting for coffee 4 months ago after he made some comments that showed me he's never going to take real responsibility for his choices. The final straw came when he told me that I had destroyed his family and that I should have been smart enough to figure out a way to have a relationship with him without exposing the secret to Linda and the kids. He said I was selfish for prioritizing my need to know the truth over his family's stability. I realized that he's never going to be the father I hoped for, and continuing to try was just causing me more pain and disappointment. Linda remarried 6 months ago. Her new husband Tom seems like a good man who treats her and the kids well. Emma, David, and Sarah appear to be adjusting to their blended family situation, though Emma still struggles with anger toward Pastor Michael. I still see the kids regularly, and my relationship with them continues to grow. Emma is now 13 and has become very protective of me. When Pastor Michael tried to complain to her about how I ruined his life, she shut him down and told him that wasn't my fault. The kids call me their sister now without any awkwardness, and Tom has been welcoming to me as part of their extended family. Linda and I aren't close, but we have a workable relationship when it comes to coordinating things involving the children. Pastor Michael lost his second job 3 months ago and has been struggling even more financially. He's behind on child support and still owes money to the church. He asked my mom for a loan last month, which she refused. His life has essentially fallen apart, and while I feel sorry for him as a human being, I also recognize that these are consequences of his own decades of deception and poor choices. My mom has been doing better emotionally. She feels guilty about the role she played in creating the situation, but she's proud that I've built relationships with my half-siblings. She's also relieved to no longer be carrying the burden of such a big secret. I've learned some hard lessons through all of this. Biological family doesn't automatically mean healthy relationships, and sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. My half-siblings chose to embrace me as their sister despite the complicated circumstances, and that means more to me than any relationship with Pastor Michael ever could. I'm also in a serious relationship now with someone who knows the whole story and supports me through the ongoing family complications. He's helped me realize that I deserve better than begging for crumbs of affection from a father who's more concerned with his own problems than with building a genuine relationship with me. To anyone dealing with similar family secrets, the truth is worth knowing, even when it's painful and messy. But don't expect revealing the truth to magically fix relationships or create the family dynamics you've always wanted. Sometimes the truth just shows you who people really are, and you have to decide whether that's enough for you. In my case, it wasn't it. I'm done trying to force a relationship with Pastor Michael. I have 3 wonderful siblings, a supportive mom, and a chosen family that loves me. That's more than enough. Edit. This is probably my final update on this situation. I'm ready to move forward and build my future rather than staying stuck in the past. Thank you to everyone who offered support throughout this whole mess. Final update. 2 years later. I'm posting this final update to close out this chapter of my story. Emma is now 14, and we have an amazing big sister/little sister relationship. She comes to stay with me some weekends, and I help her navigate teenage drama and school stress. David is 12 and still loves having me at his soccer games. Sarah is 9 and has fully embraced having a big sister. She wants to be just like me when she grows up, which is both flattering and terrifying. Linda and I have developed a respectful co-parenting type relationship. We're not friends, but we work together well when it comes to the kids. She includes me in major decisions about their lives and makes sure I'm invited to important events like birthdays and school performances. Tom has been wonderful about accepting me as part of their family constellation. He never tries to act like a father figure to me, but he's supportive and kind, and most importantly, he makes Linda and the kids happy. Pastor Michael and I have had no contact for over a year. From what I hear through the kids, he's still struggling financially and emotionally. He moved to another state 6 months ago, claiming he needed a fresh start, but I think he was just trying to escape his problems. He's supposed to have phone calls with the kids twice a week, but he's been inconsistent about it. Emma has stopped trying to maintain a relationship with him because she says he just complains about his life instead of asking about theirs. My mom passed away 8 months ago after a brief illness. Having my half-siblings' support during that difficult time meant everything to me. They were at her funeral, and Emma gave one of the eulogies. Linda made sure I knew that our family would always be there for me, even without my mom connecting us. I've completely moved on from trying to have any relationship with Pastor Michael. I realize now that I was chasing a fantasy, the idea of having a father, rather than accepting the reality of who he actually is as a person. The man is selfish, immature, and incapable of taking responsibility for his choices. Those are qualities I want in my life, regardless of DNA. I'm engaged now to the man I mentioned in previous updates. He's been incredible through all the family drama and grief over losing my mom. We're planning a small wedding next year, and Emma, David, and Sarah will all be in the wedding party. Looking back on this whole experience, I don't regret finding those photos or confronting the truth, even though it caused so much pain and upheaval. The relationships I've built with my half-siblings are some of the most important in my life, and I never would have had those if the secret had stayed buried. I also learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about people who choose to love and support you consistently over time. Linda and Tom didn't have to welcome me into their family, but they did. Emma, David, and Sarah didn't have to accept me as their sister, but they did. Pastor Michael, on the other hand, had every opportunity to build a real relationship with me once the truth came out, but he chose bitterness and self-pity instead. The truth didn't give me the father I always wanted, but it gave me something better: siblings who love me, extended family who support me, and clarity about what kind of people deserve space in my life. Sometimes the family you find is better than the family you were born into. Edit. Thank you to everyone who followed the story over the past 2 years. Sharing it here helped me process everything, and your support meant more than you know.